Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources, articles, and research and really just distill them into the nuggets of knowledge you need to be truly well-informed.
Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into an artist whose name is just, synonymous with multi-decade success.
A singular force, really. Someone who didn't just adapt to the entertainment industry, she fundamentally forced the industry to adapt to her.
We're examining Barbra Streisand,
Mm-hmm.
a true polymath of performance. We're talking 6 decades across singing, acting, directing, producing, and writing.
The whole 9 yards.
And the architecture of her career is, well, it's a case study in artistic autonomy. Our mission today is understand how her relentless, uncompromising pursuit of creative and contractual control defined her groundbreaking achievements.
And why those fights for control continue to shape her cultural legacy for you, the learner, even today.
When you just list her achievements, multiple competitive Oscars, Emmys, Grammys, that special Tony, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's just...
It's staggering. You realize you're looking at a force of nature, but forces of nature are shaped by their origins, right?
Exactly.
So we aren't starting with the legend of the diva. We are starting right where she began. Brooklyn, New York, 1942, with a determined girl named Barbra Jones Streisand. Let's trace those roots.
To understand the iron will that defined her landmark contractual deals later in life, we absolutely have to look at her beginnings. Her childhood was marked by some pretty deep instability and loss.
You can pinpoint the initial source of that instability right away. She was born in 1942, and her father, Emanuel Streisand, a high school teacher, died.
She was so young.
Just over 1 year old. He died from complications of an epileptic seizure. He was only 34. This immediate, profound loss plunged the family into what our sources describe as near poverty.
That event just shaped everything. She grew up with this deep-seated feeling of being an outcast, and she often referenced that feeling of difference, saying, everybody else's father came home from work at the end of the day, mine didn't. That sense of loss and economic precarity, it seems to have created this fiercely self-reliant and ambitious core personality.
And that yearning was complicated by her relationship with her mother, Diana.
Oh, very complicated. Her mother, a school secretary, was herself a frustrated artist, a soprano who had considered a career in music and possessed what was called a great voice.
So you have that dynamic. Streisand often said she sought love and affirmation from her mother, but she recalled receiving food instead.
It's a classic story, isn't it? The parents' unfulfilled dreams intersecting with the child's talent. And while her mother was often intensely critical of Streisand's ambitions...
She called her lifestyle gypsy-like, right, unstable.
Exactly. But she also recognized the talent. We know Diana eventually helped Streisand make a 4-song demo tape by the time she was 13.
So it was a real push-pull.
A total push-pull relationship that ultimately provided immense motivation.
So you have this young woman driven not just by ambition, but by this powerful external need to prove herself, specifically to her mother. She actually said she wanted to prove I could be a star.
And what's so interesting is the starting point for that drive, which is often overlooked. Her main aspiration wasn't initially singing, it was pure classical acting.
Right, she was all about the stage.
Precisely. She saw The Diary of Anne Frank at age 14, and that experience just cemented her desire. And crucially, she wasn't just daydreaming about it.
No, she was studying.
She was immersing herself in the craft. We see her spending hours studying the classical acting techniques of Konstantin Stanislavski and Michael Chekhov and poring over biographies of great stage stars like Sarah Bernhardt.
This indicates a really serious commitment to technical mastery, even before her vocal career had, even started.
She balanced all that serious artistic study while attending Erasmus Hall High School in Brooklyn. She was an honor student, which, again, speaks to her discipline.
And then you have the famous anecdotes, which are just so much fun, like singing in the freshman chorus and choral club alongside her future superstar contemporary, Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond has reminisced about that period. He called them 2 poor kids in Brooklyn who used to hang out in the front of Erasmus High and smoke cigarettes.
I love that image.
And he noted that even then she had this incredible awareness of culture, of the film showing at the nearby art houses.
And then there's the delightfully random crush on a fellow student who would become the eccentric U.S. chess champion, Bobby Fischer.
Such a great little footnote that just humanizes the sheer drive she demonstrated right out of the gate.
That early drive culminated in her graduating high school early, at 16, in January 1959. And this is where she really draws the line against her mother's wishes.
Her mother strongly pleaded with her to abandon show business. But Streisand viewed that opposition as the exact motivation she needed to succeed.
That rejection of the stable, conventional path marks the first major assertion of her autonomy.
Absolutely. She moved to Manhattan, rented a small apartment on 48th Street, and started that quintessential New York hustle. She took menial jobs, including being an usher at the Luntfontein Theater.
For the sound of music, ironically.
Right, and the sources paint a very vivid, almost Dickensian picture of her early struggles. Lacking a permanent address, she was often sleeping on an army cot she carried to friends' homes.
It really was a scrappy, survival-based climb up the ladder.
And as you mentioned, the singing career begins almost by chance. She had an unsuccessful audition for The Sounds of Music, but was encouraged to list singing on her resume.
The real revelation, though, came from a boyfriend at the time, Barry Dennen.
Yes, he taped her singing. He realized, wait a minute, this nutty little cook had one of the most breathtaking voices I'd ever heard.
And that one moment of external validation led her to enter a talent contest at the Lion, which was a gay nightclub in Greenwich Village.
And she won immediately. Thunderous applause, the reports say. This was the environment where she started synthesizing her art.
So she started drawing inspiration from Dennen's extensive record collection, studying the styles of Billie Holiday, Mabel Mercer, Ethel Waters.
And the great French chanteuse, Edith Piaf. But she wasn't just imitating. She was filtering these influences to hone her own distinctive style.
The crucial discovery in this period was the song A Sleepin' Bee. She saw the lyrics to that song as literally providing the 3 acts of a play that I longed for as an actress.
And that is the key. That's the moment where her primary goal acting merged perfectly with her emerging, undeniable vocal talent. The actor finally had a voice.
And she wasn't just performing songs, she was developing this whole stage persona. She started using her natural Brooklyn-bred humor and conversational ability to charm and connect with the audience between songs.
Which was a massive professional asset. It made her accessible and unique. Critics immediately recognized this power. Robert Ruark, very early on, predicted she would rewrite the record books.
And right around this pivotal moment, she made that subtle but highly symbolic branding decision, changing Barbra to Barbra.
She said she hated the name, but refused to fully change it because that felt too false. By simply dropping the single A, she kept the essence but immediately made her name unique.
Singular and professionally proprietary.
It's fascinating how that small adjustment reflects her entire career philosophy. It's about leveraging the original organic talent, the Brooklyn voice, the untrained theatrical instincts, but ensuring the final product is entirely unique and under her own command.
And that early drive for distinction and control laid the psychological groundwork for the massive, career-defining contractual decisions that were just around the corner.
The move from scrappy nightclub singer to Broadway star happened with incredible speed. Her first professional engagement was opening for Phyllis Diller at the Bonsoir.
And Diller immediately recognized her genius, right? She called her one of the great singing talents in the world.
She had a tiny momentary stumble with her first actual New York stage role in a satirical comedy called Another Evening with Harry Stones.
Right, I read that. The reviews were so terrible the show closed the next day.
But that's just New York theater. It barely registered as a blip on her trajectory.
Because her major breakthrough came almost immediately afterward. In 1962, she was cast in I Can Get It For You Wholesale, playing a secretary.
And it was on this set, starring opposite Elliott Gould, that they fell in love during rehearsals and eventually married in Carson City, Nevada in September of '63.
Her performance in Wholesale was a sensation. The sources noted she stopped the show cold. It earned her a Tony Award nomination and the New York Drama Critics Prize for Best Supporting Actress.
The critical acclaim was just overwhelming. Groucho Marx, observing her career at the time, commented on how remarkably young she was, just 20 to achieve that kind of success on Broadway.
And that success became the obvious precursor to the signature role that elevated her to national fame, Fanny Brice in Funny Girl at the Winter Garden Theater in 1964.
The show that became the platform for 2 of her most recognized songs, People and Don't Rain on My Parade.
This put her on the cover of Time magazine. It just cemented her status as a cultural phenomenon.
To go from sleeping on an army cot to the cover of Time in 5 years is just breathtaking. But here is the genuine pivot point.
This is the big one.
This is the moment where she secured the rights to the Barbra Streisand creative brand for the next 60 years. We are talking about the Columbia Records contract she signed in 1963 when she was just 21 years old.
Okay, this is the architectural detail that matters most for you, the learner. We know she was immensely talented, but tell us, why was this contract deal so revolutionary in 1963? What was the industry standard she was defying?
Well, the standard recording contract in that era, and frankly for decades afterward, gave the label almost total power. The A&R department, artists, and repertoire, they dictated everything.
The song choices, the production style.
The album title, even the session musicians. Artists were, they were just cogs in a commercial machine.
And Streisand refused to be a cog.
Absolutely refused. The sources confirm she accepted lower pay, specifically lower royalty rates, in exchange for securing two fundamental rights.
Okay, what were they?
The right to choose her own material, and the right to maintain full creative control over the output.
It was a massive financial gamble, but a strategic masterstroke of autonomy.
She was betting that her unique artistic vision was worth more than the standard upfront cash and higher royalty rate the label was offering. She valued her artistic integrity, the ability to choose a complex theatrical song over a simple pop hit more than the immediate profits.
This wasn't just a contract. It was a philosophical declaration about the role of the artist.
And we see her immediately flexing this muscle. The label, Columbia, wanted to title her debut album Sweet and Saucy Streisand.
Which sounds like a typical packaged 1960s female singer. Very generic.
Completely. And she leveraged her contractual power to overrule them, insisting on the simple, commanding title, the Barbra Streisand album.
Her reasoning was pure self-branding savvy. She said, if you saw me on TV, you can just go to the record shop and ask for the Barbra Streisand album.
It forced the consumer and the industry to recognize her, the individual, as the brand.
And the result validates the risk. The Barbra Streisand album reached the top 10 on the Billboard chart. It secured 3 Grammy Awards.
And it established her as the best-selling female vocalist in the country by the end of 1963. The subsequent albums only cemented this success. Critics were calling her the most exciting new personality since Elvis Presley.
That's some high praise.
It's so important to link this control back to her personal narrative. We know she grew up with constant self-doubt and criticism, including advice that she was too ugly to be a star and needed a nose job. That creative contract acted as a shield. It protected her not just from bad songs, but from bad commercial advice and the industry pressure to surgically alter her face and conform to a specific Hollywood mold.
She was able to say no, and the label had no recourse.
Exactly. And she introduced this powerful brand to America via television long before her films. Her first TV appearance in April 1961 on The Tonight Show led to Phyllis Diller, also a guest, immediately calling her one of the greatest singing talents.
But the truly defining early TV moment came on The Gary Moore Show in May 1962. She performed her sad, slow, deeply pensive version of Happy Days Are Here Again.
A song that was, the upbeat, jaunty, 1930s Democratic Party theme song.
So what's the significance of that? Of slowing down a song that was fundamentally a political march?
Well, it completely redefined the song and her persona. The original was pure optimism. Her version introduced this layer of theatrical complexity, yearning, and melancholy. It became her signature song in that initial phase.
It showed audiences that she was going to take material and mold it to her own artistic needs, regardless of its original context. It was another early application of that creative control principle.
That exposure led to her becoming a fixture on television, including multiple appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. We also see the West Coast introduction. Liberace, an immediate fan, invited her to perform as his opening act at the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas.
That move signaled her ascent beyond the confines of the New York theater world. This period, early 60s Broadway stardom, the defining contract, and critical television exposure gave her the foundation of commercial and artistic independence that few artists, let alone women artists, possessed at that time.
And armed with that creative control, Streisand transitioned seamlessly into film, turning stage triumphs into cinematic milestones.
Her first film role was a direct translation of her Broadway fame, right? The 1968 adaptation of Funny Girl.
The film was a triumph, both critically and commercially. It led to her winning the Academy Award for Best Actress. And here's that fantastic piece of Oscar trivia.
The tie.
She shared the award in a famous tie with Katharine Hepburn, who won for The Lion in Winter. It remains the only time that has ever happened in that specific category.
What an entry into Hollywood. She followed that up by becoming a genuine box office star throughout the 1970s, crossing genres effortlessly.
We see the extravagant musical Hello, Dolly. In 1969, the classic screwball comedy What's Up, Doc? in 72.
And the sweeping romantic drama, The Way We Were, in 1973, which earned her another Best Actress nomination.
She was a financial engine. The sources show that between 1969 and 1980, Streisand appeared in the top 10 money-making stars poll a total of 10 times.
10 times.
And to put that in perspective, she was consistently ranking alongside names like Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds, and often she was the only woman on that list.
That just speaks to immense sustained commercial appeal, and she didn't just capitalize on that appeal, she demanded a cut of the infrastructure.
She was already moving into the producer's chair. She co-founded the first artist production company in 1969 with heavy hitters like Paul Newman and Sidney Poitier. This wasn't about vanity. It was explicitly about securing projects and exercising creative oversight.
And that desire for control manifested in another surprising Oscar win in 1976.
Right, for Best Original Song for Evergreen, the love theme from A Star is Born.
This achievement is a monumental historical marker. She became the first woman in history to be honored by the Academy as a composer. She co-wrote the lyrics with Paul Williams.
The ultimate expression of her need for creative sovereignty, however, came with her directorial debut. She had established her own production company, Barwood Films, in 1972, specifically to control the kind of material she developed.
But it took over a decade of grinding effort to bring her passion project, Yentl, to life in 1983.
And this is a perfect example of her uncompromising nature. Yentl was a story she deeply believed in, based on a short story by Isaac Bashevis Singer, and she struggled for years to get it made.
The sources indicate she was turned down by virtually every Hollywood studio at least once.
She fought for 5 agonizing years, not just for the money, but for the right to direct it herself, despite having no prior experience.
And when she finally secured the $14 million budget from Orion Pictures, the resulting achievement was just staggering. Streisand became the first woman to write, produce, direct, and star in a major studio film.
The sheer logistical and political capital required to achieve that is immense.
And the industry response was revealing. The film was successful, it won the Oscar for Best Original Score, but more importantly, Streisand won the Golden Globe Award for Best Director.
And she was the first woman ever to win that award.
For 37 years. She remained the only woman to hold that award for 37 years. That number alone tells you everything about the deeply entrenched resistance and the glass ceiling she shattered.
It was a victory not just for her, but for every aspiring female filmmaker. And she continued to assert that directorial command despite the immense challenges and scrutiny.
She directed The Prince of Tides in 1991, which was nominated for 7 Oscars, and The Mirror Has Two Faces in 1996.
And Pat Conroy, the screenwriter for The Prince of Tides, called her a goddess who walks upon the earth, highlighting the intensity and meticulousness she brought to the set.
Now let's pivot back to the music, because her creative independence, established by that 1963 contract, is the single most important factor in her 6 decades of chart dominance, nearly all of it spent with Columbia Records.
That longevity with a single label is highly unusual, and it only worked because she had the freedom to pivot artistically. In the 1970s, the sources note she successfully shifted toward contemporary pop and ballads, starting with Stony End in 1971.
And that flexibility allowed her to remain commercially relevant while many of her peers just faded.
The 1970s gave us those blockbuster singles. She topped the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 with 5 of them, including The Way We Were, Evergreen.
And the explosive, iconic disco duet No More Tears, Enough Is Enough, with Donna Summer. That duet was reportedly the most commercially successful duet as late as 2010.
And we cannot overlook the massive commercial success of Guilty in 1980, produced by Barry Gibb, which produced the colossal hits Woman in Love and Guilty. By the end of the 1970s, she was arguably the most successful female singer in the U.S. in terms of sales.
Surpassed only by Elvis and the Beatles.
Right, but the real testament to the power of that original contract comes in the mid-80s. After years of pop success, she wanted to return to her theatrical roots with the Broadway album in 1985.
And the label, focused on chart hits, objected vehemently. They wanted pop. She wanted Sondheim.
The label was operating under typical commercial logic, fearing the album would bomb. That's when Streisand drew on her original autonomy, reminding Columbia, "I've always had the right to sing what I want."
She used the leverage she had secured 2 decades earlier, even forcing the label to market the album the way she wanted.
It wasn't just a win for control. It was a commercial and critical triumph. The Broadway album was unexpectedly successful, holding the #1 Billboard position for 3 weeks, going quadruple platinum.
And winning immense critical acclaim. It proved her artistic choices were often smarter than the market analysis.
And that artistic freedom is the secret to her longevity. She is the only artist to top the U.S. Billboard 200 chart in 6 consecutive decades.
An absolutely insane record, confirmed by her 2014 Partners album and the 2016 Encore album.
Her sales figures are staggering, over 150 million records worldwide. She holds the record for the most gold and platinum albums among female artists. That level of sustained commercial dominance, driven by an uncompromising artistic vision, is virtually unique.
We've spent a lot of time on the architecture of her career, the contracts and the directing, but let's shift to the instrument that made all that control possible, the voice. Critics have struggled for decades to capture its technical magic.
Technically, she possesses a mezzo-soprano vocal range that is often described as peerless in its technical capacity. But it's the application of that range that truly distinguishes her.
How so?
Well, critics point to her shrewd dynamics, which means the ability to shift volume instantly and dramatically. One second it's an in-your-ear whisper, the next it's a full elbowing loud command.
And what else defines that unique sound?
Her bravura climbs, which are those incredibly powerful ascensions to high notes, the distinctive rolling vibrato which gives her sustained notes their characteristic shimmer.
And crucially, that unmistakable, organic, singular Streisand from Brooklyn nasal quality. It's a voice that demands attention and is instantly identifiable, regardless of the song genre.
What's remarkable is her musical instinct. The sources note she cannot read or write music, yet she possesses such innate compositional talent that she creates complete compositions in her head.
So this gives her a unique ability to absorb a melody and then mold a tune that others cannot.
She can sing in this precise territory between formal song and dramatic speech, maintaining the emotional rhythm and meaning without being constrained by the formal structure of sheet music.
It's pure, intuitive musical genius.
A fact that impressed even the legendary classical pianist Glenn Gould, who called himself a Streisand freak.
And even as her voice has inevitably matured, it retains its emotional power. Critics noted around 2010 that her voice had lowered and acquired an occasionally husky edge. But the New York Times was quick to point out that she still retains the gift of conveying a primal human longing in a beautiful sound.
The technical delivery might shift, but the emotional core remains. Which brings us to a major paradox of her career.
The stage fright.
Exactly. How does a performer with such technical command and commercial power simultaneously struggle with profound stage fright?
It's truly astonishing. She has a well-documented history of it, which prompted her to use teleprompters during live shows, sometimes not just for the lyrics, but even for her spontaneous conversational banter.
So we have to ask, was this artistic vulnerability, or was it a mechanism that inadvertently amplified her commercial power? Because that stage fright led to a 27-year hiatus from public concerts.
And when she finally returned in 1993, the demand was absolutely hysterical.
Hysterical is the right word. Her 1994 tour tickets sold out in less than an hour, with prices skyrocketing to $1,500 in some markets.
Which made her the highest-paid concert performer at the time. The scarcity of her live performances made them must-see events, turning her anxiety into a record-breaking market value.
And that commercial leverage only grew. The HBO broadcast of Barbra Streisand. The concert became the highest-rated concert special in HBO's 30-year history.
Her 2006-2007 tour grossed over $119 million and set house records in 14 of the 16 arenas she played. Even with ticket prices soaring above $1,000, demand never waned.
It speaks volumes about the enduring connection she forged with audiences. And in 2012, she performed for the first time in her home borough, Brooklyn, at the Barclays Center.
A triumphant, symbolic homecoming decades in the making.
All of this artistic and commercial success has culminated in an unparalleled accumulation of awards and honors. She is an EGOT recipient, but we do need to be precise about her status.
Let's clarify that for the learner. She has the Emmy, Grammy, and Oscar, but her Tony is a special award.
Right, bestowed upon her in 1970 as Star of the Decade. This places her among the honorary EGOT recipients. While incredibly prestigious, it's distinct from winning all 4 awards in competitive categories.
Regardless, her haul of competitive trophies is astounding. 2 competitive Oscars, 9 Golden Globes, 5 Emmys, 4 Peabody Awards.
And 10 Grammy Awards, including the extremely rare Lifetime Achievement and Legend Awards, which only 14 other artists have received.
She also has the Lifetime Industry Recognition, the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, and the AFI Life Achievement Award in 2001. And her impact on film music is immortalized with 4 of her songs on the AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs list.
The Way We Were, Evergreen People, and Don't Rain on My Parade.
All classics. But the true recognition of her impact goes beyond the entertainment industry.
The pinnacle of civilian recognition came when she received the National Medal of Arts in 2000, and later the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015, presented by President Barack Obama. These honors acknowledge her sustained influence as an American cultural figure, far beyond the confines of show business.
And with her unparalleled fame and success, Streisand has consistently leveraged her visibility to influence culture and politics. Initially, the sources note, her political interest was limited.
Right, maybe focused on causes close to home, like participating in the anti-nuclear group Women Strike for Peace in the early 60s.
But her activism increased dramatically as her career profile grew. One of the most fascinating political footnotes of her life is her inclusion on President Richard Nixon's infamous 1971 list of political enemies.
And that's a clear indication that her visibility and outspoken nature were already seen as a political threat by the White House.
She became an active and foundational supporter of the Democratic Party. In 1984, she helped establish the Hollywood Women's Political Committee, or HWPC.
And this organization was highly effective. They achieved significant political success. They successfully contributed to the Democratic Party gaining majority control in the 1986 Senate elections.
They also helped fund Bill Clinton's presidential election and were key in electing more women senators in 1992, highlighting her direct involvement in political fundraising and strategy.
She consistently used her platform to advance key liberal causes. She delivered a significant address on the role of the artist as citizen at Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government.
And she's been a strong voice for LGBT rights, famously backing the No on 8 campaign in California.
She has also been outspoken on electoral issues. In 2012, she publicly criticized new voter ID laws, calling them regressive laws designed to suppress the vote of elderly and minority citizens.
She labeled them the most dangerous voter fraud threatening American democracy, framing the conversation around access and civil rights.
And her global engagement remains potent. She's been a longtime supporter of Israel, notably performing for Shimon Peres's 90th birthday in 2013.
More recently, in 2022, she was asked by Volodymyr Zelensky to become an ambassador for Ukraine's United 24 platform.
And she successfully raised $240,000 for medical aid. Her philanthropy, driven by the Streisand Foundation, established in 1986, has funneled over $16 million into causes including civil liberties, the environment, and women's issues.
This aligns directly with her political leanings and commitment to social justice. The most visible manifestation of her philanthropic focus is the Barbra Streisand Women's Heart Center at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center.
She personally contributed $10 million and raised an additional $22 million, making it a globally significant center focused on women's cardiovascular research and education.
She leveraged her commercial power and personal wealth for a focused, tangible good.
Now we must turn to the ultimate irony of her career, the unexpected cultural legacy that goes beyond all the music, films, and politics.
Streisand effect.
The Streisand effect. This term has become permanent internet lexicon, and it is a fascinating counterpoint to her lifelong struggle for control. It all originated from a lawsuit she filed in 2003.
That's right. She attempted to remove a single photograph of her sprawling Malibu, California, home from a website.
And that website was run by an environmentalist documenting coastal erosion along the California shore. She claimed the photo invaded her privacy.
And what was the immediate, disastrously ironic outcome?
The exact opposite of her intention. Before she filed the highly publicized lawsuit, the photograph in question had only been accessed 4 times.
4 times, probably by the environmentalist and his team.
Almost certainly. The ensuing media firestorm surrounding her legal action caused hundreds of thousands of people to seek out and download the very image she wanted to disappear. The lawsuit was dismissed, but the cultural term was born.
The Streisand effect was coined, the phenomenon where any attempt to censor, conceal, or hide information unintentionally causes that information to become exponentially more publicized than it ever would have been otherwise.
It's the perfect illustration of how the modern digital world resists the very control that Streisand had so meticulously architected throughout the previous half-century.
Finally, a quick review of her personal life confirms the continuation of her story. Her first marriage to Elliot Gould produced her son, Jason Gould,
who later appeared as her on-screen son in The Prince of Tides.
After several high-profile relationships, including with hairdresser and producer John Peters and famously dating tennis champion Andre Agassi,
who noted the 28-year age difference added spice to our connection.
She married actor James Brolin in 1998, a relationship that continues today.
And for those seeking the full, unvarnished story of this life defined by extraordinary ambition and creative autonomy, her memoir, My Name is Barbra, was released in November 2023, offering her final, controlled narrative.
So this deep dive into Barbra Streisand reveals that her career wasn't simply built on a voice described as peerless and breathtaking.
No, it was built on a series of calculated strategic decisions driven by a fierce, almost revolutionary need for control.
The central theme is her uncompromising autonomy. We highlighted that pivotal 1963 Columbia contract where she traded money for the freedom to choose her material and maintain creative control.
A freedom she used decades later to defy the label with the Broadway album and win.
And that pursuit of control culminated in her directorial achievements, becoming the first woman to write, produce, direct, and star in a major studio film with Yentl.
And remaining the sole female winner of the Golden Globe for Best Director for nearly 4 decades. This wasn't just success, it was barrier smashing.
Plus, we can't ignore the proof of her business model. That unparalleled longevity as the only artist to top the U.S. Billboard 200 in 6 different decades.
Her success required immense business acumen, artistic integrity, and the willingness to fight for her own narrative against industry norms, even when battling her own record label and intense stage fright. Her legacy is a testament to the idea that true, sustainable success sometimes requires rejecting the easy money in favor of complete artistic freedom.
So here's the provocative final thought for you, the learner. Given Barbra Streisand's ability to demand and maintain full creative control throughout her career, allowing her to shape her sound, her films, and her image precisely as she wished, how much of her vast and sustained success is attributable not just to her once-in-a-generation talent, but to that fierce commitment to artistic autonomy and the risks she took accepting lower pay for that freedom back in 1963.
And if we consider the ultimate irony, the coining of the Streisand effects after her attempt to control information failed spectacularly. In an age of instantaneous digital content and global distribution, does that level of uncompromising artistic and informational control even exist anymore for a modern artist? Or has the era of total control become an impossible dream?
Something powerful to mull over as you navigate your own professional life. Until the next deep dive, stay informed.